First of all, let me just ask a simple question. How many of you think 2017 will be better than 2016? Raise your hands. Thank you very much. That's the forecast. Okay, what I want to do is take a look at the Inland Empire economy, where it went last year, where we think it's going to go this year, and comment as I go along on some of the things I think you may be seeing as a consequence of the Trump presidency. So I'll work all that hopefully together. The starting point always for talking about our area is the national economy. All those negative bars you see up there, that is the Great Recession. We lost 8.71 million jobs during that period of time. Catastrophic downturn. Many of you were affected by it. Then you see three really tall bars. Don't get excited. That was hiring census workers. Then you see four negative bars. That was laying them off. After that, you see a long period of continuous growth that is relatively slow. It does have one advantage. If you grow slowly, you generally don't do something incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid was what happened with the mortgage meltdown. Incredibly stupid back in the early part of the last decade was when the dot-com stocks all went nuts and then crashed. Right now, we don't have that in the economic mix. Now, if we put all those positive bars together, here's what we get. We've added altogether 15.57 million jobs. So we lost 871. We've gained back not quite double that. So as we sit here as of the beginning of this year, the economy was 6.8 million jobs higher than it had ever been, going back to before the recession, which is 5% more jobs than the economy is seeing. So that is a first important fact. Second fact deals with unemployment rates. There are two ways of measuring unemployment. The standard way is to go to households, knock on the door, and ask essentially three questions. Question number one, do you have a job? If the answer to that is yes, you're employed and you're in the labor force. If the answer is no, then there's a second question. What did you do this month to try and find a job? If the answer is, I got tired of trying to find a job and I quit, you are no longer unemployed. You've just dropped out of the market. So that's a conservative way of looking at unemployment, and it is those bottom numbers. They peaked at 8%. They've dropped as low as 4.4, and that's where it was the last time we measured it. These are not seasonally adjusted data. They jump up and down depending on the month, but you can see how far down it's gone. Now there's a second measure. The second measure includes everybody in the first measure, but it adds two groups in. Group number one, people are working part-time who would rather be working full-time. So they're regarded as underemployed, they're added back in. So they're the second as unemployed. The second thing that we add into it are people who dropped out along the lines of what I said. They just got sick of looking because they hadn't found a job. This is called the U6 measure, and when we look at it, it peaked at 18%, and it's down to about 9.1. Now, the question is, where are we in terms of unemployment in the country? The best way to look at this is to compare it to the absolute best time. If we do that in each case, the 4.4 is almost exactly at the absolute lowest it's been, and that was during the period of 05, 06, 07 when things are really spinning fast. The U6 measure was down to 8, so 9.1, there's still a little bit of slack. But the fact of the matter, no matter how we look at it, there is not a lot of extra workers running around loose, using either measure, which is very important to you Because when the unemployment rates get down to these levels, that is when prices start to move, and that is when the Fed starts to grind down on the economy by raising rates. And they'll probably raise rates again this month. That certainly is the indicator. Now, so that's the national. The problem you see with that, if we look at the Trump administration, what has he talked about? Lowering taxes, and a massive increase in infrastructure spending and also now defense spending. There's only one way to get to that. If you can't grow your way out of it, and you don't really seem to have the labor force slack to do it, the only way you do that is with deficit spending. Essentially, you don't take as much out of the economy in taxes as you push in spending, which tries to run it faster. It's like taking a balloon that seems to be full and then trying to blow a lot more air into it. When that happens, you get an increased pressure on prices, and that's when the Fed starts to act. So that's one of the things I think you will be seeing happen during the course of this year. Now, switching down to California, how's this state? Remember, the U.S. is 5% over where it ever been. This is a picture of, again, job growth and job destruction in California. During the course of the recession, we lost 1.76 million jobs, or 1.78 jobs. If we look at what we added back over 2 million jobs. Altogether, we've gone from 15.8 to 16.9. California is up 6.7% in jobs. So we've outgrown what the country did, going up 5% during the course of the recovery and the expansion. Then there is the Inland Empire. First of all, if you are ever outside of the Inland Empire and you are talking to somebody about this place, please tell them one thing. The Inland Empire is not some small suburb of Los Angeles. We have a population of 4.5 million. Where does that put us as a state? Half the U.S. states have less people than Riverside and San Bernardino counties combined. We just passed Kentucky to put us at that spot. So half the states are bigger, half the states are smaller. We're right in the center. We're the median state, in effect. Now, what does that mean? Well, just to put it in another example, who's 2 states lower than us? Oregon. Oregon has 450,000 people less than these 2 counties. We are not some minor place, as people up in the Bay Area or in Sacramento seem to think. This is a state. In fact, I'd like to get rid of this as a state and make a state out of it so I can run for Senate. Now, what's going on in our state of the Inland Empire? Well, here you see the same kind of a picture. A lot of blue bars where we added growth. However, we lost 10.8% of our jobs during the course of the Great Recession. So it was a big 10.8% drop, 140,000 jobs. Now, it looks like we added 47,000 jobs this year, or this last year, which is a brand new number. All during the year, the Employment Development Department gives us numbers. And what did those numbers say when we had all 12 months? That we were up 38,000. Well, they revised them yesterday. So you're getting brand new data that I'd never seen before. That's why I keep looking at the monitor. We didn't go up 38,000. We went up 47,500. We added another 9,000 jobs, more than we thought we had. When we add that in, we've now gained back not quite 250,000 jobs since the recession, which puts us at 109,000 higher than we'd ever been before. We are up 8.3. So the Inland Empire, 8.3, state of California, 6.7, United States, 5.0. How are we doing, folks? We're doing great. Now, what do I think we'll do this year? Somewhere around 43,000. So we are very, very strong in this particular region, frankly, compared to the. Now, one of the issues that always crops up is job quality. And there's no question that there is a piece of our growth that is not strong. If we look at this chart, the red section of it are the high-end jobs that pay over $55,000 a year. You'll notice in the state of California, it's 26.1%, so 1 out of every 4 round figures, state job is high-end for the whole state of California. If we look in our area, it's down at 12.4, so less than half that, with almost all of those jobs in one sector, healthcare. Now, healthcare is about to be under pressure given the release yesterday of the effect on the Affordable Care Act. If that goes through, this sector will be in trouble in this particular region because of the nature of our population and the help that that particular measure has done for us. But right now, 12.4 and 26.1. Then we have a group of sectors that are white collar, but they are moderate paying, 45 to 55,000. They are up here in green. 6.7 for the state, 7.1 for us, about the same share. Then there is the enormous difference. The other enormous difference, where we're really strong, is in 3 sectors put together, blue-collar sectors: logistics, manufacturing, construction. In the Inland Empire, we're up at 39%. In California, 20.8%. So we're much more of that than the state of California. Now, why is the state so weak in those sectors? Answer: all of the environmental regulation that has been put on manufacturing through CEQA, on construction, what they've been trying to do with logistics, all of that has in effect tried to squeeze down for the state of California those blue-collar sectors, which is what marginally educated people need if they're going to get to the middle class. So you have the irony, and I could say this because I used to be a Democratic campaign manager and put people in the state legislature professionally. The current leadership of the Democratic Party doesn't give a damn about getting people to the middle class. All they want is green, period, and they hardly think about any other subject. I used to be a registered Democrat. Now I'm a registered independent. I hate everybody. And I have absolutely no political opinions. Now you get to the bottom line, which is a crazy answer that you would never expect. When you look in these red bars, or red circles, you see the share of low-paying jobs. In the state, 46.9. In the Inland Empire, 41.6. We're much better off on the share of low-paying jobs compared to the state. The state has basically maneuvered itself into a place where it's creating 2 kinds of work: very high paying and very low paying. We have a greater balance here. Yes, we have an issue. We like more office-based high-end jobs. We don't have that. That is our issue outside of medical care. But when you look at the overall picture, because we have a strong center to our economy, we're in better shape than the state. Go tell that to everybody in the Bay Area and Sacramento who thinks this is nothing but a low-end economy. With all due respect, they ought to get out of town and come down here and see what's going on. Now, here's job growth last year, brand new numbers. I haven't seen these before. Los Angeles was the biggest metro area adding jobs, 109,000. Second was the Inland Empire, 47.5. Third, behind us, was San Francisco, San Mateo, which was behind us at 43.8. Then is Orange County at 35.7, and then you get to the Santa Clara metro area, which is Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley at 35.7, tied with Orange County, but altogether, 12,000 fewer jobs created in Silicon Valley than here. With all due respect, the world is not tilted to the north. I hope they all drowned. Now, by the way, I was born in Northern California. Unemployment rates, when you look at the unemployment rate in the country, in in January, the national number was 5.1. In January, in the Inland Empire, was 5.6. So you notice that the gap between the two is very, very tiny. Look what it was back during the recession. We were way above the national. So all that job growth has brought us down close to the national unemployment rate, which is good news in this particular region. Here is our major issue. Our major issue, frankly, is poverty. And this is why the blue-collar job growth and a lot of what Ido Bedzivi was talking about is so important. What you look at is in San Bernardino County, 27.4% of children are living in poverty. Poverty, just to put it in numbers, is a family of four living on $2,000 a month or less. I've had some meals that cost that much. Now, when we look at all people, it's 19.7 in San Bernardino, it's 16.2 in Riverside. These are huge issues for us. That child issue is extremely important because if you think of the children, if they're in poverty, they've got to fight through poverty before they ever get to a classroom, and that's a quarter of our future labor force. So these are devastatingly important numbers. Now, to understand an economy, I always use the same example. I've been using it for 30 years. I apologize to those of you who've seen this before. But think of a gold mine town in the Old West. Now, how did that economy evolve? Step one, somebody finds gold. Now, what can you do with it? Nothing. So what do? You ship it away. So out it goes, and in comes money to the miners. Now, what do the miners need? They've now got money. You have the basis for an economy. Well, they need food, they need clothing, they need tools, so you end up with the general store. No mine, no general store. It is not retailing that drives the economy. It is the sector bringing in the money. What else do they need? Well, they need entertainment. So we have the saloon. Again, the people at the saloon only have jobs because the mine exists. They don't create it, it does. Now, there's a few guys in the audience here, probably thinking what else the miners need. We'll skip that part. Now, what drives the Inland Empire economy? What are those key sectors? Number one is logistics and distribution, all the big facilities along the line of what Ido was describing. Number two, construction, infrastructure construction, housing construction, offices, large facilities. Number three, healthcare, huge, important. Number four, manufacturing. Number five, the high-tech office world. Those are the sectors that bring money to us, and then they create the modern secondary tier on the right, retailing, on the left, consumer services. Don't drive it. So when a city council is like, oh, we got a new ice cream parlor to come to town, that is not increasing economic activity. Economic activity is down in that left-hand corner. Now let's look at them one at a time. First, and then I'll look at the the real estate side effects of this as we go along. Healthcare. What about healthcare? What has it accomplished? Okay, the ACA, the Inland Empire Health Plan, is a major nonprofit that happens to handle a large number of people in this region. It brought into them $1.23 billion last year. Of that, $1.08 billion went into the Inland Empire economy. About $450 million to doctors, about $440 million to hospitals and other facilities, and about $182 million into pharmacy. So this money hit the economy, and then from there, because it's coming from the outside world, it hits those people, and then as they spend, it ends up at Stater Brothers and in hair salons and all sorts of places like that. Very powerful effect on this economy. What has it accomplished in terms of public health? Well, if you go back to 2010, we had 744,000 people in our region with no health insurance. Today, it's down at 365 million, so it has gone down by 51% fewer people without health care. So that's what's at risk in this whole discussion. Now, you all deal with an economy. Think of supply and demand for health care. This has increased demand for health care dramatically, which increases health care employment. And if, in fact, you withdraw part of that, it will lower the growth of a sector where a huge number of people are working in technical jobs. I've been through 2 major surgeries. I love interviewing people, and so I interview everybody that comes close to me when I'm in the hospital. So in fact, the last person I talked to was a nurse anesthesiologist when she stuck the mask on my face and knocked me out to shut me up. But the fact is, most people who work in the medical field are not doctors. They're technicians, MRI, sonographers, all of that sort of stuff. Now, this is our 4th fastest growing sector. The yellow on this chart are high-paying sectors, 55,000 and above. Healthcare, clearly one, added 11.1% of all the jobs from 2011 through 2016. That's the period of turnaround and expansion. So that's what's happened there. The sector pays not quite 60,000 as a median, half above, half below. Very good paying sector. And in fact, it has been our best sector for continuous job growth. It never went down. Even in the recession, this sector expanded. Obviously, it is a sector that's potentially under threat depending on what happens with the Affordable Care Act. Now, second, sophisticated warehousing operations. This is something Ido was talking about. What you're looking at here is one guy and a whole bunch of machines. The fact of the matter is, this is a sector that is getting increasingly sophisticated. The folks who work in it are having to have their skills upgraded in order to work with the kind of machinery and software that they have. It used to be that this was a sector where I worked in it. I went to college. I worked for GM. I pushed a cart. I had a list, and I picked parts. Well, what have you replaced? Me, the cart, and the list. Other than that, it's the same thing. What's going on is you've completely revolutionized this sector, and it's changing very rapidly because of the whole use of technology. But stop and think. If I've got all those machines, somebody has to be able to calibrate them, to tune them, to do the programming, to keep the programming accurate. Somebody has to be able to fix stuff. So the same kind of techniques that were used in manufacturing, where you need somebody that can maybe do welding or somebody that can work with metal, you need all those skills in this field as well. Now, here you have to understand a little of my lifestyle. Because one of the things that drives this sector for us is the value of the dollar. Here you see it 100. Now, we measured on a measure of 100, so 0 to 100. This is where it was back in 2012, 2013, relatively low. This is where it is now, almost back to 100. How much has it gone up? 25.6%. So what? This is a bottle of Montrachet. Montrachet is a French Burgundy wine. That bottle of wine 4 years ago, I saw in a restaurant for $4,000. By the way, I've seen the same bottle for $16,000 in a different restaurant now. It is the most valuable wine that you can get that's white. I love it. Now, so I said to my wife 4 years ago, Deborah, can I have a bottle of Montrachet? The answer, do you want me to be your 4th ex-wife? Says a little about my lifestyle. She said no, but look at this. $4,000 now is $29.75. Not because the French changed the price of the wine, but because the dollar is worth more when you exchange it for euros. The result of that is anything, not just Montrachet, anything we buy from the rest of the world is now less expensive by about 25% to the people buying it because of the fact that our dollar has gone up in value, which means imports are encouraged by that fact. At the same time, exports are discouraged. Why? Because everything we sell costs about that amount more to our customers around the world. This is something that both Trump and the Speaker of the House are very nervous about. High imports, low exports, which, by the way, has been the history of the United States. For years, we've had more going out than coming in terms of dollars. So here's what we see. These green bars are the volumes going through the ports of LA and Long Beach of loaded containers. The inbound containers, imports, are at 8.0 million 20-foot equivalent containers. What does that mean? That is the measure we use. The peak was 8.2. That was when the China trade had taken off. It fell off to 8.0, which we're now tied with in 07. Dropped all the way down to 6, but it's worked its way back up again to almost a record level. The beginning of this year, it looks like it's coming in at a record. On the bottom in the yellow bars, you see exports. Not surprisingly, given the value of the dollar, falling off. We don't handle exports to a large extent in the Inland Empire. Our job growth is driven by imports because we handle all that trade coming in. So we've had huge amounts of net industrial space absorption. 17.5 million square feet for the 4 quarters ended in December. That's, by the way, there is no other place. What's second in the United States? Honestly, who cares? They're so far behind us it doesn't even count. Now, our vacancy rate, which when we a lot of stuff in the recession soared up to about 12.8, is now down to a little under 4. 4% vacancy rate is essentially none. As a result, we see a lot of construction. Well, place a tariff on imports. Imports become more expensive. What is a tariff? It's a tax on you. It just says we're going to call these goods cost more. So when you go to Costco or you go to Walmart or you go to Home Depot, the goods will cost more because we put a tax on you called a tariff. Now, this whole thing is sold as a tax on the other country. No, it's tax on the American consumer to get you to quit buying so much imports by making them more expensive. That would reduce U.S. jobs handling imports. It would affect this particular market. It would improve manufacturing to the extent that automation allows that to happen. Remember, automation is taking a lot more jobs than anything else that's going on in terms of the job markets. But it also means higher prices at retail stores. Now, then there is the border tax that the House is looking at. What does it do? Stop and think for a minute. You're and you buy $80 of American products and you sell them for $100. What do we tax you on? 20. The difference. Your revenue minus your cost. Now, let's say you're a U.S. manufacturer and you make a good and you sell it for $80 to France. What are you taxed on? 0. We wouldn't tax you on anything you sell overseas. But then there is the kicker. If you're a retailer, think every retailer practically that you shop at, and you buy goods overseas for 80 and you sell them here for 100, you won't be allowed to deduct the 80. You'll be taxed on the 100. Well, what's that going to do to retail prices? They will go up dramatically to you. Why? To get you to quit buying all that stuff at those places. There is going to be a bloodbath in Congress over this, because if you're from the Midwest, you love it. If, however, you happen to be in Southern California or from poorer communities that use those kinds of retail goods, you're not going to particularly care for this. So it'll do these things, but most importantly, it will discourage imports, encourage exports, could get a lot of money that's been parked overseas to come home. Now, who in this audience did not buy something online for Christmas last December? Raise your hand. I see about 4 of you. 4 of you lose your American citizenship. Now, what are we saying here? This was 1.1% of retail sales in this country. It's now down or up to 8.4%. It is growing at 15% per annum compounded. How would you like your 401k to be growing at 15% on automatic. That's how fast it's going up. And this, again, goes along with what Ido was saying. This is the future. Forget the mall. It's going to be coming out of large box types of operations. So, all new facilities in industrial being constructed in Southern California are in the Inland Empire. Who's second? Again, who cares? It's LA. It's way down at what? 7? Have some. Now, one of the things that's happened here is the profitability of people investing in these types of facilities have gone up. It's now 17.5% higher than it was before the recession started. So it's gone up 70% since the bottom of the recession. And these are the asking rates for large facilities in the Inland Empire. How many jobs created? Over 1 out of 5 of our jobs was created in this sector. That doesn't, if money comes to somebody working for, say, Amazon, and they take their check home, and then they go to Stater Brothers, they create jobs at Stater Brothers. If they go get their hair done, they create jobs at the hair salon. So it's more than that in terms of impact. Hugely powerful. Median pay, $45,000, half above, half below. Good sector for bringing people up into the middle class. Third, manufacturing. What's our problem? The United States has created 720,000 manufacturing jobs in January 2011 and January. California, we only had a 7% share. We have the largest industrial complex in the United States still, but it's not growing. Why? I speak a lot to groups over in Orange County that come in, they're manufacturers, they come to enjoy our weather, they come to enjoy the beach, they come to play golf, they go to the big hotels in Orange County, and I ask them, who in here is willing to take their plant and move it to California? And I've never had one of them say, me. They won't come. Why? Because of the environmental policy regulation that California created that basically says, don't come, we don't want you. Here's one of the offsets, or the results of our policies. Electrical costs, 14.0 cents per kilowatt hour. These yellow bars are how much more expensive California is than every other state west of the Mississippi. Right behind California is North Dakota. We're only 62% higher than North Dakota. Next to us, Arizona, we're only 66% more expensive than Arizona. Go down a couple, you find Nevada in there, and we're 80% higher than Nevada. There are consequences of that, and it discourages the expansion of manufacturing in this state. By the way, it doesn't hurt the manufacturers that didn't come. It hurts the workers whose jobs were never created. These are the policies of, quote, Democrats. I hate everybody. 5.5% of our job growth was in this particular sector. Median pay, $50,000. Construction. What's going on in the housing industry in general? Here's what's happened to home prices. They peaked at $368. They bottomed at $134. 200,000 is where they sit, or 280,000. They're up 109%. San Bernardino County numbers, Riverside are similar, only higher. But we're still about a quarter peak. But we don't have to get back to the peak. Why? Because if you look at this black line and everything above it, those are the houses that were sold during the bubble. During crazy time. Most of those have already been lost. So, in terms of advantage for new and existing homes together, San Bernardino County, $295, Riverside County, $348. How does that compare to the coast? $552 in LA, $561 in San Diego, and only $740,000 in Orange County. Half above, half below. So you see it down here at the bottom, what you save by migrating in here. So if we look at, say, Orange County, you save $445,000 on the middle-priced house if you come to San Bernardino County, you save 387 if you come to Riverside County. Migrate inland. Jobs are located. Please. This is what's happened to the size of the gaps. The size of the gaps between the coastal counties and here are getting wider. That red on top is the Orange County gap, which is up to over 400,000. The other two, the blue and the black, are up to 300,000. Those are the LA and San Diego gaps. They've gotten really wide. So you will see ultimately the markets, people reacting to this. Part of our price, frankly, is there's no inventory. This is new home inventory. It's the lowest it's been since all the way back in early parts of the last decade. In terms of notices of default, they are now lower than at any time until sometime before 2000. So that's out of the market. There's some increase in new family homes. It is not what's driving that's more infrastructure. Of all permits is back to the 1999 level. It's not inflation. So here's what we see in apartment rents. Consequence having a lot. You'll notice Riverside is the lowest, followed by, but all of well over $1,300 a month and higher. The value is extremely low. This is what's going on in construction, our second fastest growing sector now, but not so much as a residential. It's mostly large projects, whether they're large buildings or freeway infrastructure and that sort of thing. 13% of our jobs, 1,000. Finally, and last, we look at the high-paying sectors that aren't medical. Here we have a real problem. The problem is bachelor's degree and above in the Inland Empire, 20%. Look at the coastal counties, and it's 30 to almost. Up to the Bay Area, it's 44. So we don't have a well-educated to draw high-end companies into this region. Our office market is doing better. Net absorption is up to something that might be considered normal. It had exploded during the period of the boom, then it died, and it's come back to sort of a relatively normal area. Vacancy rates have dropped from 24% down to 12%, but that's still pretty high. E-commerce is an issue here, frankly, because with e-commerce, you don't need as much office space. You can do it all, I think you can practically buy a house on your cell phone now. Lease rates then are down. They're 8.2% below the peak back in 2007, though they are 12% above the low. These are all the sectors that are high-end sectors that aren't medicine. And which in the private sector, it's only 1.6%. So very small piece for us. All our high-end really is in healthcare. Median pay is great, $71,000, but we're not creating a lot of that kind of work. Now, when we look at the other piece that pays a lot, it is government. However, both the President and the House Majority Leader, or the Speaker of the House, both of them would like to see government shrink, but defense expand. We do have the advantage here of the Marines in 29 Palms, Fort Irwin for the Army, March Air Reserve Base for the Air Force, and the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Corona, which is really high-end. They do a lot of really technical stuff there. Those are going to expand. When we look at assessed valuation in the two counties, it is up in San Bernardino County by 14% over what it was before the recession. Inflation is up 11.7%. So it's beaten inflation, so the purchasing power for San Bernardino County from the assessed valuation has gone up. I don't have the chart for Riverside, but it's up 10%, so it's up less than the inflation rates and not quite as fast. There is what's going on with federal, state, and local government from the turnaround through last year. It is still negative. They have not gotten back to where they were beforehand. Median pay in government, $60,000. Now, what's going to happen in retailing is retailers are going to get hurt. Ito laid it out, absolutely accurate, totally agreed with him. The fact is, you're going to see a lot of retail malls fail, and retail sales are switching over into the e-commerce world. This is what you're seeing in retail vacancy rates. They're higher in the Inland Empire, almost double what they are in the coastal counties. You're also seeing lower asking rents, triple net here versus the coast. These are all the low-paying sectors. They add up to 38, 39, 40% of our economy, smaller than what you see in the state as a whole. Now, summarizing this all together. One, the Trump impact that I've outlined just a little bit here will not be except for rising interest rates. They'll mostly affect 2018. Healthcare is very strong, but we'll have to see what they do to the ACA, what happens to that piece of legislation that went in yesterday. Logistics is strong, but it's under the tariff threat or the tax bill threat. Manufacturing is strong, except we're in California. And so all the things you might want to do really get bottled up there. Infrastructure construction, that's a place we should see a lot of strength, but you got two problems. One, CEQA. How long does it take to get permits to do anything in California when anybody and their uncle can sue? Ask Ito. Ito used to have no gray hair. That was about a year ago. The residential market is stabilized. It could be hurt somewhat by rates. Industrial construction is strong, but under tariff threat or the tax bill threat because of what could happen to imports. Office market is weak due to e-commerce and high vacancy levels. Retailing has had modest growth, but again, it's under threat from particularly e-commerce in terms of employment. Altogether, the forecast I have preliminarily, working the numbers, I just got this stuff yesterday. I look at this year 42.5, which is a 3% job growth. This year we did over 4, and unemployment of 5.6%. This is my website. This will be posted, if I can get my website manager to get it up. The only problem I have with him is he spends a lot of time in Coachella ever since they decided to legalize pot.
Coming on after John is always interesting because obviously we have our presentations overlap at some level. I think there's going to be slight difference in focus on this particular one. I'm going to talk about, there we go, I think he's going to, I think we both have visions of what's the future and what's happening out here in the IE and what's happening in terms of real estate. First, we'll just basic conversation about forecasting, right? Because we all have forecasts, we all talk about the future. Realize forecasting's tough. Yogi Berra famously said, forecasting is difficult, particularly the future. And I like to point out that I've never made forecasts in my entire life. Every forecast I've ever made is wrong. Now, mind you, I'm a very good forecaster because I'm less wrong than the vast majority of forecasters. So that's the kind of bar I'm dealing with there. Now, mind you, I'm not the only forecaster who has a tough life. I mean, look at weather forecasters, right? Last year it was supposed to be wet. Remember that, huh? And this year, well, dry. Oops, got that one completely wrong. And then last but not least, let's not forget, of course, the political forecasters. Morning of November 8th. This is Nate Silver's website. For those not familiar with Nate, gold standard in many ways for political forecasting. Morning of, he said 71% chance of a Hillary, and it turns out that was quite wrong. Now, I'm not dishing on Nate too much, I'll tell you why. Even if he was running numbers and coming up with probabilities, in his own blog post, he was saying something's weird. Something doesn't seem right. Something doesn't feel Good. And of course, the net result of the conversation was, as it turns out, those numbers were wrong. A lot of people voted who nobody expected. Of course, we ended up with a Trump win. I woke up on November 9th, cold sweat, no. Woke up on November 9th, I had to face fundamental reality, because my conversation about the outlook for the economy has been largely based on the idea that Clinton was going to win. I was kind of building this probability into my forecast, and that really means 4 years of kind of the same old, political gridlock, continuation of basic policies. November 9th, I woke up and I realized, world, we're going to have an extreme shift in policies, and that's going to have very real implications for the economy, things that we have to worry about. Now, of course, questions, we're 3 months into this, and a lot of everybody says, what does it mean? What does it mean for the economy? And I have said the same thing. The election of Trump to the United States of America really changed our outlook for the nation. We're just not quite sure how yet. Which is not an incorrect line. What that means, what we're primarily dealing with, and everybody in this room needs to be cognizant of, what we're really dealing with here is a massive increase in uncertainty. There is not so much been a big change in actual point forecasters, but rather the potential ups and the potential downs have become much bigger. Is there some potential upsides in this administration? Of course. Is there some potential downsides? Oh, yeah. So what I'm going to talk about today is really three things. A, I want to talk about where the election came from. It's important to understand how this victory arose. Second thing I'm going to do is talk a little about current conditions, not only, of course, in the nation, but here in the state, here in the Inland Empire, and talk a lot about directions in the residential real estate market. And then last but least, we're going to come back to Trump and talk about the potential that Trump has for the economy moving forward and what it may mean to you in terms of your business over the course of next year. So everybody got that? All right, good. So we'll go right back. How did this happen? You pick up any newspaper, and this is the ongoing mantra. Paper after paper, news outlet after news outlet, when they talk about the victory of Trump, they call it the anger of the electorate. People are pissed off. And the election of Trump was all about that anger. Why are they angry? Well, you heard about it over the course of this campaign. American families, no raise in 15 years. Crushing burden of the Affordable Care Act, secular stagnation, declining productivity, excessive taxes, reduced business investment, crime on the rise, energy sector hurt by ridiculous regulations, immigrants stealing U.S. jobs, record numbers of discouraged workers, income inequality at high levels, federal debt out of control, Fed holding rates dangerously low. I didn't even think about this, right? This is some scary stuff. Some scary stuff. Now, we talk about the anger of the electorate. Well, I think last year I explained to you the true reality of the anger of the electorate. You remember this? People always talk about the anger of the electorate. Well, what's the reality? I can sum it up in one word. Remember that word? It's a great word. Miserableism. Miserableism. That's what really sums this up. Miserableism. Miserableism, of course, is a philosophy of pessimism, or, as I like to put it, desperately trying to make things much worse than they actually are. Think about it for a second. We, the United States of America, sitting around, wringing our hands, feeling terrible for ourselves. Every time you pick up a paper, you hear another sob story about some terrible tragedy in some town somewhere in America. The entire campaign of Donald Trump was wrapped around the idea, make America great again, because Lord knows we're not great now. Really? No, this idea of miserableism, how have we gotten here? Well, I like to point out miserableism is, in many cases, a winning strategy. It's a profit-making enterprise. And we always have to remember that. I take, for example, some of my favorite miserableist stuff. Louis C.K. He's a miserableist, right? Everybody see Louis C.K. do a stand-up? Very funny. What's he talking about? How terrible his life is. Makes lots of money. Lots and lots of money. Talk about how terrible his life is. Wall Street's a miserableist. They love bad news. Why? This creates market volatility, which in turn creates, of course, more trading. Trading drives commissions, which drives profits. They love bad news. The news networks. Biggest miserablest out there. Why? At some point in time in the last 10, 15 years, some MBA working for the news network sat down and I did a little correlation. Turns out a lot more people watch our news networks when bad stuff is happening. So therefore, every time you turn around, they're screaming, crisis! Does anybody watch like CNBC or CNN on a regular basis? How many times have you seen the word crisis over the course of the last 2 years? I don't know, 7,000, 8,000 times, I don't know. What was funny, probably the most funny thing I've ever heard, remember Brexit last year? The shrieking hysteria around Brexit was truly awe-inspiring. It was non-stop coverage. When they voted to leave the European Union, every news network was covering it 24 hours, shrieking at the top of the hills. Ah! Now, I can be honest with you. Do you want to know what if you actually sit down and look at the underlying dynamics, do you know what Brexit means for you and your business? Nothing. Totally irrelevant. It means nothing to the U.S. economy, nothing to the California economy. You would never have guessed that. And then, of course, the miserablest in chief himself. A man whose primary asset on the campaign trail was not that he was the only miserablest, but he was the best miserablest. Because in reality, Bernie Sanders is no different. Don't kid yourself for a second. Bernie Sanders and Trump are very similar. They're both screaming about the end of the world and how terrible our economy is. Now, they blame completely different forces. Trump says it's the terrible taxes and the terrible regulations, and Bernie Sanders says it's those evil corporations and rich people. But they're still painting the same picture of a U.S. economy in decline. Well, folks, take a step back. Things, in fact, I go so far as to say, and I know this is shocking, they're actually pretty good. They really are. Look, take GDP. All right, I know. I'd love to have 3.5% of GDP growth. I'm sure you would too, right? But you know, we've been growing about 2%. That's not too bad. We've been a little bit of ups, a little bit of down. And candidly, it's been a rough few years. Been all sorts of problems with the global economy, and we've managed to muscle our way through. More importantly, no chance of a downturn. You know, things I've been hearing lately. Well, you know, we're 7 years into an expansion. Therefore, a recession must be going to happen any time now. Because the average expansion is only 7 years. So we got to be near to the end of this. That's stupid. It's just stupid. It doesn't work that way, folks. Expansions, economic expansions, are not like people. They aren't like born and they're young and they're strapping and healthy, and then they get, you know, in the middle age and get a little achy, and then they get funny smelling and old, and then they die. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen. All right? Every economic expansion is permanent until it's cruelly murdered by some negative shock to the system. If you are predicting a recession, you have to tell us what the negative shock is going to be. And there's nothing within the economic fundamentals of our economy today that would suggest any kind of economic downturn in the next couple of years. Now, there are risks, but the risks don't come from the fundamentals. The risks come from some dramatically negative change in government policy coming out of the Trump administration. But as for the fundamentals of the economy itself, it's fine. Do we as a nation really suffer? We're home to 5% of the global population. We also represent 20%. You get that? 5% of people, 20% of consumption. In other words, we're the biggest group of spoiled brats on the planet. Just once, I'd like to hear a presidential candidate sit on stage and tell people that. Shut up and stop whining. Because we have it really good compared to most any place else in this world. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Okay? It's like that rich kid who's whining because he didn't get the Porsche he wanted for his 16th birthday. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. Real incomes have been rising. True well-being even more so. Labor markets are tight. This is one of the ongoing nonsense. This idea, this concept that there are millions of discouraged workers in the Midwest, these herds of blue-collar workers like the buffalo of yesteryear, roaming the Midwest, desperately searching for a factory to give them a job. Utter nonsense. This does not exist. Inflation is still low. Interest rates are still low. Business investment is solid. Profit high. Making tons of money. U.S. Energy, biggest problem they have, too successful for their own good. And of course, manufacturing, doing fine. California, remember our state, most business unfriendly in the nation, yet we're ahead of the game. Now, there's not saying there's not problems. There's plenty of problems. The slow growth is in large part to do with self-inflicted wounds in terms driven by this preposterous ultra-right and ultra-left people that don't have a clue how the real world works. The economy has been weak, driven in large part by, of course, the big domestic, the energy glut that has hurt many economies, not the least of which is Texas. There's been a big slowdown in business investment wrapped around the energy sector. Of course, state and local budget. That's one of the things that's frustrating to me. 7 years of revenue growth for local governments. Talk to any city or county in California. They're stressed. They feel like they're in a recession, even though there's 7 years of revenue increases. What's going on? Pensions. Which, of course, these are real problems having to do with pensions and various sorts of entitlements, that leads to Medicare. We have problems with after on Dodd-Frank's, and overall, very slow recovery that continues in the housing market. We have growing wealth inequality. But the thing that scares me most of all is, again, I understand politics and economic reality, they don't get along well. You know? Because politics is about, shall we say, massaging the truth for your own particular political benefit. But never have I seen the disconnect between political discourse and reality been as great as it is right now. Really. And if anything else, what comes out of this conversation, the data I'm about to throw at you, is that reality. I mean, your clients are asking you about this stuff, and they're wondering how terrible things are. I think you need to tell them. Tell them the hard truth. It's not that bad. We're doing okay. In fact, I'd rather live here than pretty much any place else on the planet. So, really, stop whining, America. Just stop whining. Just for a couple minutes. Now, where does all this optimism come from? We'll just start with GDP. This is year-on-year growth in real GDP. You can see there's ups and downs. We get to 3% growth, then we slow down, pick up, slow down. Each one of these little slowdowns we've seen here has to do with some negative shock to the system. The last time around, late 14 into 2015, for a few quarters, we were growing 3% year on year, pretty good. And then yet again, we started to slow down. This time, again, as already noted, the global commodity glut. Big collapse in energy prices, big collapse in various commodity prices. You saw a number of developing economies go into recessions. Brazil, for example, Russia basically stopped growing. Middle East had all sorts of issues going on. Texas, North Dakota, they saw a big slowdown, big pullback in business investment. Exports slowed down, but we continue to muscle through. We continue to grow, and if you look towards the end of the year, we started to pick up speed again. Why did we pick up speed again? Because the global commodity glut started to work its way out of the system. Exports, the second half of the year, started to pick up yet again. Overall, industrial production for mining started to pick up again. Corporate profits started to bounce back. All the symptoms of that glut started to work their way out, and lo and behold, the U.S. economy started getting moving again. And you certainly see it. Take, for example, the ISM indices, Institute Supply Management Diffusion Index, above 50 means growth. You can see for both manufacturing and non-manufacturing, getting up into those higher levels, all predictions of expansion coming in 2017 was pretty good. We're really moving forward. And of course, through all this turmoil, the ongoing biggest source of stability in the U.S. economy has been the consumer. Consumer continues to increase their real spending on the basis of 3% on a year-on-year basis, and they're spending it for the right reason. People continue to spend more money because they are earning more money. This is not 2006 where people are borrowing money against their own inflated home and using it to buy all sorts of gifts. This is spending on the basis of income growth because savings rates themselves remain nice and steady. Consumers are spending more because they're earning more. And they're earning more because the labor markets are pretty tight. You look, the overall number of payroll jobs continues to be nice and positive. Yes, in 2014 and 15, we had about 250,000 jobs a month. Now we're kind of in that 175,000 range. A little bit of a slowdown. But the slowdown we're seeing is not because of lack of labor demand. If you look at the job openings rate, it's on an all-time high level. Some sectors more than others. Some of the biggest needs right now in employment are professional services and healthcare. Construction is a little bit low. Manufacturing is a little bit low. But overall, one of the highest rates of job openings we've seen. The problem, the reason there's been a slowdown in job growth is in large part it's becoming harder and harder to find the right people to fill those jobs. You look how tight labor markets are right now. Oops. Unemployment rate. Do I have the unemployment rate now? Sorry, hang on. This thing's going the wrong way. Hello. Can you back this thing up, folks?
under left on the right, left button. Ah! Right button. All right, I'm coming. I'm coming. Yeah, all right, I got it. Where's Brian? Is Brian in the room? Got it. Congratulations, by the way. Sorry, here we go. All right. I got it. Sit on it. Oh, nah. Someone's messing with me here. I think the battery might be going on this thing. Okay. So look at the unemployment rate, right? The unemployment rate on the U.S. is about 4.5.
Including discouraged workers, the so-called youth, that's like 9.2%, all falling radically. And, well, it may be all well and good, but, things are still bad. There's all sorts of workers that aren't being counted. Well, again, another side of a tight labor market.
Median wages growing close to 3%. These are real numbers. Last year and a half, workers have seen real increases in their income growth. You guys don't need to take pictures. These slides are going to be posted, and we're going to have a video as well. So I'll just give you the address so we come to that and something. In terms of labor force growth, that's starting to pick up again because wages are. You're pulling people back into the labor market. That's a good sign there. Social Security disability insurance. That's the new welfare. Ever since we had welfare reform, welfare is no longer as generous as it once was. We now have a new welfare. It's going on Social Security disability. And that, of course, peaked at close to 9 million people. Well, the last 2 years, it's been falling. People are leaving Social Security disability. That's one of the best signs of all. These are all indications of the labor market's nice and tight. There we go. Now, what about that participation rate? This, I think, is probably one of the most misinterpreted data points we have out there. Constantly, people are looking at this. Now, mind you, I've heard one of the lines that Trump uses, there's like 90 million people out of work in the United States. Where the hell did he get that number? Well, what he looked at was all the working age adults who aren't in the labor force. Now, by the way, most of those people who aren't in the labor force don't want to be in the labor force. They're retired early, they're stay-at-home parents, they're in school. There are people who, for any number of reasons, never wanted to work. The peak of participation, by the way, among working adults was 84%. We saw that in about 2000 or so. And since then, this is 25 to 50-year-olds. Overall numbers lower than that. Look at 25 to 50-year-olds, that's gone from 84% down to 81%. And that becomes this ongoing conversation. Participation rates are lower, and that must be where all these people are kind of, non-existent in the workforce. Again, it becomes part of the miserableness of the conversation. The problem here is that, well, first of all, that started back in 2000. It didn't start in 2006. And the second problem is this was predicted somewhere around 1980. Because the vast majority of declines in participation rates is not due to a lack of labor demand. It's due to basic demographic changes within our economy. That is to say, we have an aging workforce, we have changing demographics out there. I played a little game. I took the 2000 participation rates and I applied it to today's adult population, which of course include those 15 years of changes. And this is what's amazing. It turns out if you take the 2000 participation rates by age, by level of education, and by gender, and you apply it to today's adult population, the labor force would drop by 1 million people. It wouldn't go up. We wouldn't have more people employed. We'd have fewer people employed. Now that kind of blows me away. I can't understand that. But you got to understand there's been some big shifts out there. Look, our blue-collar workers on the outs, yes, some of them are. If you look at younger blue-collar workers under 54, you got about 2 million males who are not in the workforce, who would have been in the workforce had we had a 2000 type economy, and about 500,000 females as well. So that's 2.5 million people. But what we forget about is if you look at the increased participation rates for educated workers, which is way up, for female workers, which is way up, and perhaps most of all, the 55-plus range, because people are working longer than ever before, that adds about 3.5 million people. So on net, we're about 1 million jobs ahead, not behind. Now, yes, there's still 2.5 million adults on the outside. To put that in context, that's not 40%. That's about 1% of the working age population. And those jobs haven't been stolen by Mexico. They haven't been stolen by China. For the most part, they just shifted to older, more educated workers. So something we need to pay attention to, but this idea that this is a core problem in the U.S. is just false. That problem does not really exist. And even, locally, maybe California and Europe is fine, but the Midwest has collapsed. I gave a talk to a whole group of state legislators, including folks in Wisconsin, and they were talking about that. Oh, your data's good, but Wisconsin's doing terrible. Oh, really? Are they? Yeah, absolutely. That's why they went for Trump, anger of the electorate, right? It's terrible out there. Oh, here's the numbers. The unemployment rate in November of 2016 for Wisconsin, 4.1%. Lower than the national average by a good margin. Oh, well, okay, that's because of discouraged workers. Really? Let's look at the participation rate in Wisconsin, 68%, higher than the national average. Turns out Wisconsin's labor market is tighter than most. So why are people so upset in Wisconsin? Because they live in Wisconsin. Which, again, is kind of not really, it's actually, I know it sounds funny, but I'm actually being serious. See, here's the problem you have in places like Wisconsin, people are moving away. The population is growing very fast because people are choosing. They don't want to live in Wisconsin, they want to live in Arizona, they want to live in California, they want to live in Texas, they want to live where it's warmer. And people are moving away from those areas. And that is a problem. That's one of the reasons labor markets are so tight, because people move away. But they're moving away because they don't want to live there. They're not moving away because they don't have opportunities. That is not what's happening out there right now. How about this idea of income stagnation? This, to me, again, represents, I think, one of the ongoing complete misunderstandings of government. You can go online and you will find, 10,000 web pages devoted to this particular statistic. This is real average household incomes. And again, website after website after website devoted to this picture, all sorts of political conversations devoted to this picture from the left and the right. What happened? Incomes for households grew up to 2000, and they've been flat ever since. And yes, we got a big bump in 2015 when the Israel says, yeah, we just got above the 2000 level. Terrible. Americans are suffering. Absolutely. Again, the left talks about it because of inequality. The left talks about it because of corporations and a busted political system. The right, it's all about taxes. It's all about regulations, killing the productivity of the U.S. economy. I have the real answer. It's neither the left nor the right. The real answer is this data is wrong. You see, read the fine print. Turns out that this information is collected from your gross adjusted income you put on your IRS form. Oops. Your adjusted gross income. That misses all sorts of income, folks. Healthcare. If government or private provider helped by your employer, not counted. Pensions payments, not counted. There's a litany of reasons why that gets just done. Having kids pushes it down. It's because of your write-offs. This is not an accurate representation of people's true well-being. Now, we have a better data set, by the way. It comes from the VA. It includes all forms of income. And if you look at that, create a similar number, you get maybe a slightly different picture. Looks something like this. Oops. Yes, it rose, flattened out a little bit of the Great Recession. Since then, it's been rising, and now is much higher, not only than it was a few years ago, it's much higher than it was back in 2000. We aren't suffering, and this makes sense. You know, how many people have heard this survey? Millennials are going to be the first generation that has the worst standard of living than their parents. Have you heard this? Does that make any sense to you? Really, just take a deep breath. How can any journalist say that out loud without giggling? Millennials are going to have a worse standard of living? How? Because these income numbers don't even capture what's going on. What's better today? The answer is pretty much everything. We'll start with communication. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, communication. You know, here's one of the issues with GDP. You know, used to be, this is a big change. I got a 1-year-old home. Okay, that was my big change from being here last year. Grandma is in Japan. If grandma 30 years ago, 25 years ago, wanted to know how our kid was doing, you know what she'd do? She'd make a phone call. And she'd say, hey, how you guys doing? Is the boy alive? He's doing great. She'd be, oh, great, thanks. Love you, click. And that would be like $32. Today, she has an iPad. We have an iPad. We FaceTime, and she sits there and plays. She plays with her grandson for an hour for free. By the way, that's not counted in GDP anywhere. How about medical care, pharmaceuticals, the range of pills and products we have, the ability ability to extend people's life, the ability to make your life better? Not included in the statistics. None of these numbers are there. Entertainment options. When I was a kid, we had 4 channels. 4. I heard some smart guy from McKinsey sitting next to me going, I understand why people are angry. I'm from India. I know I have a better life than my parents. We lived in India. I picked up the phone, and half the time I didn't have a dial tone. Americans don't see that. I turn around and I go, kids in America don't know what a dial tone is. What are you talking about? Transportation, the cars we have, magnificent. Shopping options. We used to have to find things by shopping from store to store. I told my wife this year, honey, I'm going Christmas shopping. Don't open my office door. I didn't go anywhere. It was great. Food quality, variety, environmental conditions, legal marijuana. Woo! Nothing is worse. I take it back. There's one thing worse today. The Stones. That's it. Everything else is better. Stop with the nonsense. Stop with this. Stop. Just stop. You know what scares me? Not inequality. Not wealth, not income inequality. If you actually look at taxes paid, benefits received, income inequality is much less than Bernie Sanders said. And it's not rising nearly as fast. You know what does scare me? Wealth inequality. The fact that 90% of Americans have less net worth in 2013 than in 2001. The fact that 75% of Americans have less, half of Americans have less net worth than they did in 1989. That should scare you to death. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about wealth inequality. The left is running around whining about a minimum wage. That doesn't fix this. This is much more complex, and no one's talking about it. We're missing the boat completely. How about housing? Same old, same old. Not too hot, not too warm. Sales, not great, but moving forward. Prices, not great, but moving forward. A little shift. Overall, construction not very good. But 2015, most recent numbers, we did see a slight uptick in people owning homes. That's all good news, but nothing too exciting. There. How about here in California? Around residential, what's up as well? Decent numbers. Everything's moving forward. It's hard to find anything truly bad. California, 2016 CEO survey. I love this. I love this survey. Every year it comes out, and here we go. 2016, best and worst states to do business. California, number 50. Worst state to do business. Give it up, guys. Come on. We're top of the list. No, seriously. What? Seriously. By the way, 12 years running. Dynasty, baby. Beat that, Lakers. Come on, bring it. I laugh. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Look, I don't like this business-unfriendly state. I wish we were more business-friendly. Why? I'm a business person here. I deal with the nonsense. And it's a pain in the butt. I'll tell you the truth. I'm not moving to Texas. Sure as hell ain't moving to Wisconsin. I'd much rather live here, and apparently I'm not the only one. Over the last 3 years, California is responsible for 1 out of 6 jobs in the United States of America. 1 out of 6 here in California. Our economic output growing faster than the national average by a good margin. And this isn't new. For the last 20 years, we've added 35% to our payroll workforce, 25% for the nation overall. Unemployment right now in the state, basically at the national level. Today, California's share of national income, never been higher. Never been higher. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't make the state more business-friendly. We should. But we should do it for us. It's not a growth conversation. It really is not a growth conversation. How about different kinds of employment? Well, here's the numbers. A little bit slowed down towards the end of the year. But over on the right-hand side, about 2% growth. The same slowdown here we've seen in other places. A lot of it simply has to do with the fact that we're, running around with extra workers. Where is the growth? I love these numbers. These are the revised numbers. And yes, your eyes do not deceive you. Go way down the list. These are major times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 and 8 ranking year-on-year growth, San Jose and San Francisco. Number 1 in the state for growth over last year, Modesto. Modesto, the Depression-era economy called the Central Valley, number 1 in growth. Inland Empire, number 2, 3.2%. Woo! Fresno, yes, Fresno. Number 3. Rosslyn, East Bay, Ventura's up there, Stockton's up there. Folks, the inland areas are where the growth is occurring right now. Again, it's not the coastal communities, it's the inland areas. And you know why? A lot of it has to do with cost of housing, affordability. People are moving out here. Jobs are forming out here. No doubt about it. What kind of jobs? Well, mixed. Education, you have information, healthcare, logistics, special science service, a lot. Near the bottom, manufacturing, we lost some. Absolutely. The nation has overall about 0.4%, not too bad. And then sports slowdown, retail sales slowdown. A lot of good jobs there. And of course, this is another thing. What are bad jobs? Well, I guess it's good jobs now. A lot of bad jobs. On the right hand side there, that's changing income by the income level of workers. The two biggest surges we've had is in the 25 to 50K range, and then of course the 100K plus, where we've seen almost 400,000 new employed individuals. Now, if you look at this percentile, by far and away, the biggest percentile is in the higher end, and of course, in the lower end, it's a little lower percent growth overall. This is good numbers. These are good numbers. Lots of people making more income out there. We should be happy about this. Travel, tourism is doing great. Taxable sales continue to move forward. As for local jobs out here in the IE, getting very good. Logistics, top of the list. About 100,000 jobs, up 7.4%. Construction, number 2, 6.9. Leisure, hospitality, restaurants, etc. Other services, healthcare, government, financial activities coming forward. Manufacturing, 2.7% out here. 2.7% growth in manufacturing. One of the few places where you're seeing significant increases in manufacturing jobs. And yes, there's been an increase in establishments out here as well. Manufacturing is coming to the Inland Empire and it's doing fine. It's doing fine at this particular point in time. Lots of good numbers here. And of course, you can see on the right how much farther ahead the Inland Empire is compared to Los Angeles and California overall. And of course, even more importantly, is employed residents. Remember, there's a big difference between payroll jobs, which are people who work here in the Inland Empire, versus household jobs, which are for people who live here in the Inland Empire, even if they happen to work in Orange County, San Diego, or LA. Right now, 1.9 million employed residents of the Inland Empire. To put that in context, from a labor force perspective, the Inland Empire is the 13th largest economy in the nation, folks. Number 13 on a labor force basis. There are a lot of people here. You exist in an enormous economy. The reason people don't realize it, it's a weird, enormous economy because there's no record. Very strange. Some of the work we're doing right now at UC Riverside, part of my new position, is talking about that, talking about the issues and how do we create urban corridors. Because right now, the one thing the IE really needs to formalize its role as a drone standalone economy is to get away from being a veteran community and start having these urban corridors. The two places that make the most sense, Ontario and the city of Riverside. And I think they're moving forward. And again, from an income perspective, well, they're all bad jobs. Again, no. This is a change in households by income 2010, 2015. And yes, the single largest increase in households are those making over 100K a year, up 30,000 households from 2010. Number 2 is 75K, the 100K range, then the 25 to 50K, and households making less than 25 has dropped. There's no massive increase in inequality. A lot of people are doing better out here because of all the wonderful opportunities available to us. Now, single largest issue we're dealing with? Quiz time. Quiz time. And I think this is interesting. This is an interesting quiz. This is a matching game. Remember this back in elementary school. Real simple quiz. You got letters and numbers, and I need you guys to match these up. On the right-hand side, 5 parts of the state. Bay Area, Central Coast, Greater LA, Greater Sacramento, South Central Valley. By the way, Greater Sacramento, South Central Valley, that's the dividing line's Fresno. Fresno down south, Modesto north is north. You got that? Left-hand side, 20-year growth rates for jobs. And it's, the lowest is 23.6%, the highest is 40%. You got it? All right, pen and paper, match. Don't be looking at your neighbors. I swear, I'll throw you out of the class. All right, time out. What did you put down for the Bay Area? What letter? You put down A. Interesting. Anybody else want to take a hazard guess? C? Anybody else? B. Okay. How about South Central Valley? What do you think? E? What the hell? You guys cheated? Did I give this quiz last year? Oh, I did? Oh, damn it. I really got to renew my slides once in a while. All right, well, the answer is they're lined up perfectly. Yes, over the last 20 years, the Bay Area is the slowest growing part of the California economy. which boggles people's minds, because I thought the Bay Area had everything. They got this high-tech clusters, they got hordes of over-entitled, spoiled, brat, over-educated millennials. Oops, did I say that out loud? I meant to say over-educated, spoiled, latte drinking. But they're the slowest growing part of the economy. And that's because what people don't realize is in the end, growth is not about clusters, it's not about cool development, it's not about taxes and regulations, it's about bodies, it's about people. And people is about housing. Single family homes in California, you know this, we don't have enough housing. We don't build enough. We don't build enough because of all the NIMBYisms, because of CEQA, because of Prop 13, all these different reasons. And nowhere is the ferociousness of the opposition to housing worse than the Bay Area. Simple as that. And this is why I laugh, because there's always this crazy dichotomy. You go anywhere in the country, you got some development person there, we're going to be the next Silicon Valley. Yes, we're going to be the next computer hub, we're going to be the next software cluster. We want to be this, we want to be that. Every place in the country wants to be Silicon Valley, except for Silicon Valley. Where people protest Google buses, where they have riots in Oakland when every time a tech company comes across the bridge. Why are people so resistant? Because I'll tell you what, if there's a lack of housing, tech comes at everybody else's expense. And they realize that. They're getting pushed out. It's called gentrification. Gentrification is not a function of rampaging rich people. It's a function of the unwillingness of the local government to allow for the densification necessary to meet the needs of all. And in a very basic, in a very simple world, you won't build housing, the rich win, the poor lose, and that's that. Or another way of thinking about it, it's easy to be a liberal in San Francisco. All the poor people have moved away. Now, prices continue to rise, and nevertheless, we're hardly building any kind of new single-family units right now. The state's way down from where it was in 2005. There's lots of conversations about the affordability crisis, very few conversations about the supply crisis, which is where the problems actually exist. And of course, you can see it here in the IE. Prices have been rising, although, as already noted, John did a good job pointing this out, much cheaper along the coast. Overall, home sales continue to move along, not spectacular. A little bit of an uptick towards the end of last year. Things are okay on an overall basis. Inventories are still tight. But again, if you look at affordability, much better here than overall. Much better here, particularly on the ownership side, even though it's up just a little bit. Homes are still reasonably affordable right now. Here to the Inland Empire, to LA and Orange County, much better. You're bringing more and more folks in here. That's true on the rental side as well. Ownership remains relatively stable at this particular point in time, but still things are moving forward on good numbers across the board. But very little in the way of permitting. I actually think this is a relatively short situation. I think things are starting to move up again, and you're going to start seeing more people move out here, and more construction. In the inevitability of the affordability issue, starting to push the activity out here, and you're starting to see not only jobs, and as a result of that, do expect you're going to see more people and more new home sales start to move in the area, but it is going to be relatively slow. Non-residential continues to move up as well as the time. So, with all that in mind, things moving along at a pretty good pace, what does Trump mean? What does he mean for the economy? And I'll start with a conversation about manufacturing. Conversations about manufacturing to me continue to just boggle my mind. We want to bring back manufacturing jobs because that is how the middle class does great. Really? Well, first of all, we got to think about the fact that we still produce lots of manufacturing products. And again, it's one of the big myths. Every time you hear about the decline of manufacturing, they show jobs. Well, jobs is not analogous to output. Output is a function of jobs and machines. And, of course, we have a big shift. You know, manufacturing output has grown more or less lockstep with GDP over the last 25 years. A little bit slower in the last few years, but before that was very higher. But again, a big shift in the mix. What do we produce more of now? Petroleum, motor vehicles, primary metals, other transportation chemical products. Kind of in the middle, electrical equipment, fabricated metal printing, a little bit of slowdown there. And the bottom end, the stuff that truly has fled, stuff that has truly gone overseas, apparel, textile mills, paper, and furniture. Big mix and shift. Now, whenever you start talking about this idea of blue-collar, the great blue-collar job of manufacturing, do you know what they're talking about? They're talking about the UAW job. They're talking about those folks in Michigan. Those were good jobs back in the day because that union was very powerful and had great benefits. Now, mind you, the union has been large immunity because of the bankruptcies. The fact that they almost drove those companies into bankruptcy. And, of course, remember, actually, not going to China. Those jobs have been replaced by machines. And thank God for it. I see a few great here, folks. You guys had cars back in the 1980s, right? Built by UAW guys. I had one or two of those cars. They sucked. Because a hungover UAW worker makes a problematic car. Machines are never hungover. They're never angry at the boss. They've never been involved chit-chatting about whatever the Detroit Lions did the previous day while they should be paying attention to bolting your car together. Cars are much better, and those jobs ain't coming back. On the other side of the fence, what about apparel jobs? Has anyone ever been to an apparel factory? These jobs suck. They're not middle-class jobs. They're horrible jobs. They're horrible jobs. We don't want them, don't need them. And nevertheless, we fetishize it. We created a problem that doesn't exist. We've created this desire to bring back jobs that nobody really wants. It's not just manufacturing, by the way. I continue to laugh at this idea of coal. When I was a kid, we read books about how people had the most horrible, squalid lives in coal towns. Do you remember those books? Someone got out of a coal town. We use these words. They escaped. They escaped. That's how bad they were. Now we want to bring back those great jobs. What? But again, this is part of the visuals. How many people have seen one of these stories? They show some town on the Kentucky-Tennessee border, a town that's been devastated by Chinese trade and decline in total coal industry, and how terrible things are. You've seen these pictures, right? You've seen this, right? I have news. It always sucked to live in that town. Living in rural Kentucky was never fun. It was never good. Stop talking about this. It doesn't exist. I'll tell you what does exist, an enormous threat to our health for our economy. We are very trade dependent. 30% of our economy is made up of goods moving in and out of this nation. And by the way, exports are as important as imports, and exports in the last 15 years have grown much faster than imports. Almost double compared to the 66% increase in imports. Our current account deficit is the smallest it's been since 1998. We don't have a problem. We're moving in the right direction. You cause a trade war, you're not going to bring back any good jobs. You're going to bring back a few lousy jobs, and you're going to threaten supply chains and create a recession. Single largest problem our nation faces, threat we face, is the idea of a major trade war. The only good news here? China faces it more than we do. They're more dependent on trade than we are. And hopefully they recognize that, because if they don't, this can get ugly very quickly. How about the energy sector? I love this. We're going to bring back energy by deregulating it. Bring back energy? Does anybody know have you ever seen what the price of the pump is nowadays? It's cheap. You know why? U.S. oil, fracking, through the roof. In the peak a year and a half ago, we were producing 9.5 million barrels of oil a day. That's 20% more than Saudi Arabia, 25% more than Russia. We had 5,000 wells dug into the ground, waiting for prices to hit $45 a barrel. They crack and start pulling oil out. No one talks about OPEC because no one cares. Because we are the new swing player. And this doesn't even include this. Largest oil deposit ever found, the end of last year. 20 billion barrels of oil in West Texas, easily fracked. By the way, I'm glad about this. I'm a global warming believer. We got to win yourselves off. That's got to take a little time, a little effort to do it. And in the meantime, better our oil than Canadian tar sands. Better our natural gas than our coal. Because it's natural gas that's killing coal. Not regulations. All this stuff is nonsense. Deregulating energy, letting coal companies dump mountaintops into streams. It's not helping anybody. It's not changing anything. It's not creating any jobs. You're just making more profits for a few over-entitled CEOs. Not helping anything. How about Dodd-Frank and banking? Well, here you go. This could make a big impact. Now, banks aren't being crushed. Overall loan growth is up about 7% or so. But there's been, of course, a big issue in the housing market. We discussed this last year. The biggest issue you're facing for your clients is lack of credit availability for people who are slightly higher risk. And this, of course, is the lunacy of the left. Because the left is not, lunacy is not exclusive to the right. The left has plenty of problems. And Dodd-Frank is a wonderful representation of that. If Dodd-Frank didn't fix what happened in the Great Recession, Dodd-Frank's created a problem that didn't exist, which is that bank lenders are evil. And borrowers are innocent victims. It didn't address the actual problem, which was the subprime lenders out of Costa Mesa and the these guys who aggregated and sold off to unsuspecting investors. That's the problem, not banks. Now, mind you, what they did was a witch hunt. They tried to take a liability foreclosure, take it off the borrower, and put it on the lender. And what the lenders did was pull away from people with credit scores under 720. Complete collapse in credit to those folks, down by 2/3. Those above 720 do just fine. The housing market out here would be improved dramatically if they fixed Dodd-Frank to allow mortgages to start flowing again to higher risk households. It would be very helpful to you, very helpful to the U.S. economy, very helpful to the conversation about wealth inequality. This is all good stuff. This is all good stuff. This could be a good positive place for things to start. All right, healthcare. You know, they released their new healthcare plan last night. I don't know if you saw that. It looks suspiciously like Obamacare. You know, as far as guy I heard talking about the healthcare reform said this. He said, look, you know, the biggest issue with healthcare is nobody wants to own it. You always want the other party to own it because it's a no-win situation. Republicans figured that out 50 times. They want to get rid of Obamacare. I think at the very end, Obama should have called their bluff. Okay, there you go. Get rid of it. All hell would have broken loose. Absolutely. 20 million Americans would have lost their health insurance. Even more, we're seeing substantial diminishment in the quality of their health care. And okay, there's also economic implications. You know, we're always talking about manufacturing jobs. In the last 20 years, we've had 1.5 healthcare jobs per manufacturing job lost. And healthcare jobs are just fine, folks. It's a big sector. It's a growing sector. There's no problem here. Well, there is one problem. One problem is we're not actually talking about healthcare crisis. You know, we always talk about Obamacare as if somehow it's healthcare reform. Again, a private lawyer I met said it's not healthcare reform, it's healthcare insurance reform. Completely different. We haven't had healthcare reform and we need it. The biggest problem in healthcare, the fact that we spend $9,400 per person per year in healthcare compared to, say, I don't know, $6,300 in Sweden or $5,400 in France. We spend vastly more of our income, vastly more on healthcare patients in the United States than any other countries without a significant increase in health quality outcomes. That's the problem, and no one's talking about that. No one's talking about the waste in the system, and no, this isn't lawsuits and overhead. This is just an over-prescription of services to people who don't really need it. No cost-benefit analysis, as simple as this. And we better get serious about it. Because, you know, the single largest threat to our fiscal health, and no one's talking about this, is Medicare. It's amazing to me. You know, as right-wing as Trump is, more touch of Medicare, he says. And Hillary couldn't agree more. We're not going to talk about Medicare reform. No, not going to happen. Not going to talk about it. Really? You know, right now we have 45 million Americans on Medicare. Over the next 20 years, because the retirement boom is going to go from 45 to 76 million people, 31 million new people on Medicare. To put this in context, right now Medicare eats up roughly 18.7% of federal revenues. By 2035, it's going to be 41%. And by the way, it has to compete with Social Security and Medicaid and defense spending. And how are they dealing with this? We're not going to touch it, and we're going to cut taxes. Really? The single largest threat our federal government faces, and we're ignoring it. This is broken. And of course, we worry all the time about secular stagnation, slowdown growth. You know what one of the biggest contributors to quote-unquote secular stagnation is? A slowdown in working age adults. I mean, no one talks about this, but half of economic growth is made up of workforce growth. Look at this is working age adults. Okay, this is just the number of people. Not even worrying about labor force. You know, we used to grow about 2%. Right now, we're growing about 0.7%. Very slow because of an aging workforce, because we have fewer kids nowadays. By the way, this will be zero, but for, of course, immigration. Immigration is half of population growth in the United States right now. In 20 years, it'll be 2/3. And you want to talk about making Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid work, first thing you got to do is make sure we have enough working age adults to fill up all those jobs. So, in other words, if you want to think about fixing Medicare, one of the things you can do is open the borders, bring all the immigrants in, and some more. Of course, we're not doing that. Instead, we've created a false problem. Immigrants are a problem. No, they're not. They're stealing American jobs. No, they don't. We got 12 million undocumented people in this country, and we have a full labor market. Well, that is a problem, isn't it? They're brown. We don't like those brown people. Really? I mean, it's nonsense. I mean, your point's well taken. That's the real issue. Now, by the way, California, we're comfortable with this. Why? 27% of Californians are born overseas. not too long ago, a couple of years ago, when some census report came out, it said by 2050, Caucasians will be minority in America. My dad was like, wow. You know, he's 81 years old, to watch his 5 years, understand where he's coming from, right? He said, wow. And I go, wow, what? He goes, that's crazy. I'm like, dude, I live in LA. Welcome to my world, white boy. What are you talking about? I don't feel threatened. I don't feel marginalized. I feel great. Get over it. But we're used to it. The rest of the country's not. Yeah, there's a lot of nervousness about it. But they need to get over it and understand the immigrants are a solution. No problem. How about taxes? We're going to cut taxes. Really? Why? Get a big boost of growth. No, you don't. Look, Art Laffer was a joke in the Reagan administration. He's just as big of a joke now. You don't get a lot of gains from cutting taxes. And mind you, I don't like paying taxes. I don't like it at all. I get pissed off every time I get a fill on my income tax form. I get it. But let's be honest, there is no magic bullet in this particular gun. And besides, we're not paying that much. Look at corporate taxes. Corporate incomes are near an all-time high level. Corporate taxes paid state and local about 25% of profits. It's lower than it was in the Reagan administration. You look at income taxes, it's about the same. We're not paying that much. I would like to pay less, but we got to cut back on spending. Where? They want to spend more on infrastructure. They want to spend more on defense. They're not going to touch Medicare, and they're going to touch taxes. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. And by the way, investments near an all-time high as well. Now, infrastructure investments, that would be huge for the U.S. economy. Huge. And I like the idea, but, you know, are they going to do it right? That's a big question. Sorry, I got ahead of myself here. You know, talking about tax credits, that doesn't work. Works for portion and total. It doesn't work for fixing the 10 and the 210. That's a big problem. Now, they're talking about it. I hope they do it. But again, you can only spend more by raising taxes or, of course, by deficit spending. And that's one of the big worries is the big increase in deficit spending, which, of course, brings me to the asset markets. Because, you know, since Trump got an election, you see two major things. Interest rates come up. And mind you, 10-year around bond rates are 2.5%. They were higher in 2012. So not that high. And, of course, the stock market's also been going up. And this is interesting because the stock market seems to be remarkably blasé about Trump, which I don't fully understand. Well, I kind of do, because remember, stock market is pricing in a big cut in taxes, which is good for them. And of course, the bond market is calculating a big increase in borrowing. Now, should you be worried about this? Maybe, but not in the way you're thinking. You know, interest rates have been low for a while, and they're low in large part because of global supply glut. And we have a lack of inflation right now as well, which also contributes to low interest rates. And low interest rates have been a big source of support for the housing market. But they are starting to drift up because of the expectations of these things. And that's already starting to put a little bit of pressure on the market. But what worries me is what Trump may mean for the economy, and I'm not the only one. Because if you didn't pay any attention, at the end of last year, the Federal Reserve raised rates, and they released this. They said, not only raising rates now, we expect a much stronger path of raising over the course of the next year, which is a surprise because they hadn't said anything like that for the previous 2 years. Even a really underlying growth conditions, underlying asset price positions, underlying money, inflation conditions haven't changed. And all those conditions say you don't really need to be aggressive about raising rates, but how they are. Well, what they see is this: strong fiscal stimulus in the context of a full employment economy. They see the potential for cutting corporate taxes and repatriating billions of earnings in the context of our already capital-stuffed U.S. economy. This will unleash another financial bubble. Simple as that. We've been into two major financial bubbles, late 90s and middle part of last decade, both which are partially responsible for the very slow recoveries we've seen. The last thing this nation needs right now is a third major financial bubble cooking, and that's exactly where they are heading. And the Federal Reserve's not going to have it. So the biggest issue out there, I think, from your particular standpoint, is what happens if the Federal Reserve gets really aggressive and starts raising those rates and starts pushing the 10-year bond and flatten yield curve, where you're going to make it more expensive to buy a home, and you're going to make lenders even less willing to lend because of the flattening yield curve. So if I said there's two major risks of the Trump administration, it's going to boil down to a trade war and the potential for a bubble, the Trump versus Yellen thing. So on net, I do think Trump is overall a negative for the economy. We're doing okay. There's positive buying homes. We might have more balanced access to the Chinese market because the threats of a trade war might make that blink. And of course, we already saw the healthcare thing. I've always said this, Americans hate Obamacare, but it turns out they really like the Affordable Care Act. And that is, of course, becoming obvious in the context of the fact that they have not gotten rid of it, they're just making some changes. They could end up being positive in the long run, but remember, we still have to deal with the big issue, which is Medicare. As for the negatives, inexperience, infighting, conflict of interest, deficit's going to widen, interest rates going to rise, potential for a major trade war, increase wealth inequality, Federal Reserve might seek control of Congress, major backward steps in immigration, which will worry everybody because that is part of your growing demand base. Backward steps, of course, environmental policies. But the thing that scares me most of all, revenge is left. You know, I don't want Trump to blow up. I didn't vote for him. I'm not happy he was there, but I want him to succeed. And the reason I want him to succeed, because if he fails miserably, if he truly blows up, then I will give you 3 words that are more scary than President Donald Trump. President Liz Warren. Because the difference between Liz Warren and Donald Trump is they're both evil, but Liz is a lot smarter than Don. And her policies are no good because they're the radical left policies, which are only going to replace radical right policies. Folks, we need to move the conversation to the middle. We need income moving to the middle, wealth moving to the income. We need compromise to be a word that is part of politics, not opposition to politics. We need to get away from this ridiculous polarization where the debate is between people who are wrong on the left and people who are wrong on the right. There is an in-between. There is a right place to be. We're not going there. But if you listen to this kind of talk and get involved, hopefully, maybe, we'll start moving in that direction. The first thing you got to do is realize that the conversations we're having at the national level really aren't conversations based on reality. So if I had to sum it up, we're going to have a good year. But watch out. There's some risks out there, things you need to pay attention to. So be happy, be healthy, and we'll see. Thank you very much.
I have a lot of respect for everybody that's on this panel. So how self-determining is demographics going forward? So we have this great group of people. Is that like, okay, you're going to have very slow growth for a very long time, or can it be, is it likely to be countered? And any of you guys are more capable of answering that than I am.
Well, I mean, the primary source of new population growth is immigration. Simple as that. And not only is that, not only is that true from just a pure body standpoint, but immigrants tend to have more kids as well.
Yeah, but but as far as housing, they own the homes less often.
In the first generation, but of course a lot of it depends on who. If you look, half of immigrants in California are from Central America, and yes, they tend to have low skill levels and less likely to own. The other half are from Asia, and they're high income, highly educated, and they own lots of homes.
Okay, so we're getting back. So we're going to fix the immigration. We're going to come to a deal, right? We're not going to say, okay, everybody out, because that's ridiculous. We're not going to do that.
You and Steve Bannon, from your mouth to Steve Bannon's ears, right?
Yeah, we're not going to do that. Okay.
There's also a misnomer. Everybody talks about immigration. It's always poor people. And if we look all about wealth, Google, immigrants. Sun Microsystem, immigrants. Steve Jobs of Apple, the son of an immigrant.
Says the man with an accent.
Exactly.
Hey, folks, I'm a 4th generation Californian. I'd like to congratulate all of you coming to my state.
Well, the reality is that the state, the location brings opportunity, like you said. You'd rather be miserable in California than miserable in Siberia, right? So it's also
Or Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, right? So, we've been blessed with the location, the population base gives tremendous economic opportunities. There's always been challenges. There's been challenges for thousands of years. And I always say, the guy who invented the wheel was very smart. The guy who invented the other 3 was a genius. So we're inventing things here, and I think that's part of what's going to happen, and that's what drives immigration. Immigrants don't come to a place where they can't get a job, right? They have that in their own country. So they come to places where there are jobs, and we are providing them. So I think overall we've learned the self-helplessness, like everything is miserable, like you call it. What was the word? I can't even pronounce that. Immigrant, I can't pronounce it. But the reality is that it's still a country and it's still a state where you can create your opportunities despite the challenges. I mean, we all complain, but at the end of the day, we get there. So that's what's
Okay, I apologize for the audio, guys. We're, as good as we're doing, we seem to be failing with the audio here, so I apologize with that.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
To the economists. Everybody talks about immigration. A lot of the immigrants that are doing sort of, you might say, the low end and part of the sector of the economy. I always thought there's an imputed tax they pay. In other words, if you pay somebody picking tomatoes $25 an hour, $30 an hour, you go to the market and pay, $12 a pound, not 90 cents a pound. So the money you're not paying for all those goods, right, have been paid by the imputed rate you would have paid a fully, entitled
Okay,
worker.
but first of all, I mean, immigrants pay a lot of taxes, even if it's not maybe like income tax, they
Sales
pay
tax, gas tax.
Exactly. And to your point, because they fill a lot of these roles from relatively low positions, they make many of the goods and services we consume cheaper than they would be otherwise, and we should all be very happy about that. And, the typical complaint though, and I think this is where you're going, is this idea that, well, we have to pay this money to put their kids into school. Well, that's not an expense, that's an investment. Because by taking those kids and getting them educated and making sure that they ultimately have good jobs, we're helping our overall growth of our economy. So that's good, that's an investment, that's how we think about the future. It's not an expense.
I agree.
Okay, so we got that solved. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. Okay, we got our first question from the audience.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for coming today. I had a really great morning listening to you guys. My question would be, considering everything you said today, jobs leaving, jobs potentially coming, the whole economic forecast, each of you had a different opinion, but I want to know, if I buy a multifamily today, what neighborhood within the Inland Empire do you think will produce a better outcome in the next 5 to 10 years?
I'll give you the best answer I have.
Okay.
If I knew that, I wouldn't tell you, I'd be out there buying them.
I know, I'm asking you guys. So that's, honestly, it's a real question though, and I'd like an answer.
I can say that from where the best schools are. Where the best schools are, it's obvious that that's where more opportunities are going to come, and people get education. Just without knowing what specifically those might be. But if I had to choose, if I was going to invest some dollars, I would.
Yeah, but to your point, they're already expensive there. So really, the question is one of economic return, and you're going to pay a higher price on those areas.
Expensive is relative. Look, I know people in New York that said they should have bought a building 100 years ago for $9. Nothing ever really gets cheaper. It goes up and down. But the good areas get better. Bad areas sometimes stagnate.
Sometimes they get better, and you make the biggest return. Yeah.
You're talking
San
about buying the
Bernardino,
cheapest
baby.
house in the
San
most
Bernardino.
neighborhood.
Can I make one suggestion?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're gonna buy units, I would buy at least something that's standalone where your management actually affects the outcome. If you buy a fourplex, let's say, with 20 other fourplexes, you can get defeated by doing everything perfect and being affected by the results of all those other little pieces where no one will come into a neighborhood because it's unsafe, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I was wondering, with the expansion of the Panama Canal and the building of the new canal, with all the warehousing we have in Southern California, how is that going to be affected down the line?
Let me tell you the easy answer to that. The ship pulled into LA and Long Beach harbors at different times, called the Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin is an 18,000 TEU ship. That is, that one ship has 18,000 20-foot equivalent containers on it. That is the direction that the ocean-going vessels are going. That ship couldn't even start to get through the Panama Canal. That canal is already obsolete. Maximum TEUs going through it, I believe, is 13,000, might be 14,000. That's it. That's not where the fleets are going. So, first of all. Second of all, even if the stuff can get through there, it's at sea for a long period of time. Whereas when it's coming into LA Long Beach, it's a much shorter time frame for the supply chain managers to make a decision about where they want to send the goods in those containers containers when they arrive. And the onshore infrastructure here, whether it's the logistics, the warehousing facilities, the trucking, the rail, the airports, is by far the most sophisticated in the United States. So that we will do just fine. We may lose some of the low income or bulk types of cargo might go through the canal, but anything that any value in it that needs to move at any speed is going to come through here. That is not a difficulty, and even the Panamanian, when you go down and talk to the folks there, I talked with a person who's a consultant to the Panamanians, their anticipated growth rate didn't change significantly with the expanded canal.
There's one thing that always gets me, maybe as an immigrant, that in America history starts about 6 months earlier. We've been competing with the Panama Canal for about 100 years. It's not a new phenomenon. They widen it, there's bigger ships, there's more modernization. But we've been competing in that market. By the way, a little geography. How many nautical miles is it from China to the East Coast to the Panama Canal? Or how many nautical miles is to the Suez Canal, another way to get to the East Coast? So it's 11,400 nautical miles for the Panama Canal, 11,700 nautical miles going through the Suez Canal. It's not something that's changing the world. It's changing some of the economics because the size of ships, the economics of shipping, a lot of things, but this is not going to be this big game changer in the West Coast.
One other fact that's important, is as the exports move from China in the direction of India, India goes the other direction. They would be going through Suez. That would be a bigger threat than anything dealing with the Panama Canal.
I have a slightly different answer, which is I don't think the ports are that big of a driver of the warehouses out here. Warehouses out here are mainly about distributing goods to the 50 million plus people who live in this sort of southwestern part of the United States of America. And on that basis, those people aren't going anywhere, no matter how big that canal is. So I still think that the port's impact on local industrial space is highly overstated. I would argue Amazon is going to be just as big as an impact on these distribution centers, particularly as we go to an economy where more and more of our products are getting dropped off their doorstep rather than being picked up at the local retail store.
By the way, $1 billion in sales, e-commerce, creates a demand for about 1 million square foot distribution center. And this thing is going at $40, $50 billion a year. So you're going to see 50 to 60 to 70 million square feet in demand simply by what's happening with e-commerce. Nothing to do with it.
I apologize, I have to leave, folks. I got another meeting, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chris, I appreciate it. We do have time for a few other questions, but I don't know, this screams Inland Empire to me. I have a Ford key on a Mercedes-Benz keychain. So if that happens to be you, come let me know. Also, real quick, in case I forget, we've been live streaming on Facebook the entire event. I think we lost a piece of it with the battery issue. So for those of you that missed something or heard something and want to hear it back, you can go to our Coldbaker Town and Country Facebook page and you can watch, hopefully, all of it. And then I think with permission, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to say yes, we'll be able to put out PDF copies of the PowerPoint. So I've been getting a lot of inquiries about that. So we'll get that to you as well. And our next question.
Good afternoon. My name is Bobby, and this is my third year coming. I appreciate you guys coming every year. My question is, in the Inland Empire, predominantly I see a lot of the loans are FHA. Do you see any, can you comment anything in regards to any conventionals coming in? Because my experience has been it's predominantly FHA financing, and I don't know if that was going to be a problem at all.
Well, one of the difficulties is, you bump up against the loan limit. And yeah, if we had a higher FHA loan limit, you certainly have more buyers. There was a program that I suggested when I spoke. It's hard to get it passed. Just for the rest of the panel, just a nothing down loan program by Fannie Mae. Do it to the median price of the area. Have it be able to float to a new owner, and have a trustee sale, not risk the principal, but only be sold for the back payments, you'd have a lot more volume. I'm really concerned that we're gonna go below 60% in the next number of years in owner occupants, and I don't think that's great for our society, to be honest with you. And I'm an investor and a guy that's a landlord, but I'd rather not see the country's direction go that way.
Good afternoon, my name is Tony Dawood.
He's a troublemaker.
So my question is for Ido. This cluster, when is it going to happen? And when it does happen, if you're a developer, how do you plug in terms of surrounding developments?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
The first part is the cluster you talked about.
The cluster.
Yeah, when is it going to happen?
It's a good question. We have all our approvals, but we're in California, so we have CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. John is very familiar with it. It's a good thing when we're young when we started, because the closest I ever get to a kind of life is going through the process in California. We have our approvals. Now we're going through what typically happens is CEQA litigation. The only way to enforce CEQA in the state of California is through the courts, so everybody has a free-for-all. We have settled most of the big issues. We're now left with a few groups that I would say sort of environmental concerns that I think have very little to do with the environment, protecting the environmental resources, but everything to do with advancing some of their agendas. At best case, it probably happens in a few months. At worst case, it probably happens within a year or two.
So when it happens, how long will it take to build out?
It's a very good question. We've been looking at this. We've had demand of over 10, 11 million square feet today. We cannot deliver it because we're in CEQA litigation. The growth projections, and one thing that people don't understand, we're running out of land for this type of development. The World Logistics Center is about, in another 1 or 2 years, will be the only place where you can really build any of the larger size facilities, which is what is in high demand. So if that happens, it could happen faster than we all think. 41 million square feet, which is our ground entitlement, but our clear heights are up to 80 feet. So imagine it's multi-story, so the capacity is more like 120 to 130 million square feet, and it will probably take anywhere from 7 to 10 years.
But you used to say 20.
That's the EIR. I'm kidding. The market changes, e-commerce is really accepted. People forget that this process is so long that when we started it out years ago, people say, well, you said that in the beginning. The beginning was 5 years ago. So the world has changed, and things have to be updated.
So how will it affect housing development around the area?
So, look, the tide of Moreno Valley is rising. I hope you have your ship in that water. Because when you create, there's no national housing market, because if you have a job in Riverside County, do you care what the housing market is in Orlando, Florida? No. So jobs create demand for housing, and the amount of jobs that we produce as a result of the World Logistics Center will drive a lot of housing. There's approximately 20,000 permanent jobs, 13,000 construction jobs in the process of building it. You're talking apartments, condos, fourplexes, triplexes, homes. Not everybody is going to buy them on the first day, but when you have 20,000 people with jobs, they need to live someplace.
Last question, guys. Long day.
Thank you. Ido, you partially answered this. As an econ major in the past, I love all this macro stuff. On a micro level, and Lance, you may be included in this too. As a realtor, I'm looking at the next year, 2 years for the growth, if I should be recruiting for my team, and if there's a shift coming, which there was a lot of talk about this past year. And so from my perspective on the ground, where are you guys coming from?
My instinct is slow. What you've been seeing the last couple of years is what you're going to get this year. Next year, the Trump impacts begin to occur, whatever they are, and I agree with what was said by my colleague. We don't know what that's going to be. Fundamentally, it's going to be negative I suspect, to the economy. Because what I see going on in Congress and what I see coming out of the White House, I think is setting up the potential for the next recession.
So, look, there's pessimism has its virtue. You often, wrong, you're delighted when you're right, if you're wrong, you're happy it didn't happen. But I think the world doesn't come to an end. We'll go through cycle. It's going to be very location specific. You know, if you're in the Midwest, there might be one impact. If you're in Southern California, another impact. I think what's happening with e-commerce and what a lot of the drivers are out here, we're probably going to be okay. In terms of Trump, I don't think everybody's going to become stupid on the same day. Right? I think Trump, my theory of why he's won is because very simply I understood the American public. Look, if you ask him about his immigration policy, you went to Hillary's website, there's 300 pages with, you know, you pay your taxes, you don't commit crimes, you do this, you go to school, whatever it is, you become nice, you get to be citizen. 300 pages, nobody reads it. You ask Trump, what's your immigration policy? Throw everybody out, build a wall. I understand that. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, it can't work. It gives very simplified answers. The reality of the world is more complicated, and I think there's enough people around there that are going to somehow get it to be somewhat normalized. But if anybody has precise predictions, might be.
Well, actually, Trump just sent a tweet. He's demanding a fully investigation into the Highland Fairview project.
We've been there before.
What do you got, Bruce?
I guess if I was in the business of which you're in, which I'm not, okay, I think there's plenty of opportunities. I think you'll have a pretty normal year if you last year was normal. I land on the side of thinking that we'll probably have a recession. But interestingly enough, it probably won't be a really bad one, and it might give the industry a 2% mortgage rate, or a mortgage rate that starts with a 2 for a bit. So that some of it would be very active because you would have an enormous amount of refis. You could have permanent benefits come from it. Inside of a 9-month recession, you could have some enormous long-term benefits. So I'm not afraid of our industry for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's either a double down or a triple down on the 2% interest rates from Bruce. So watch out.
Let me ask someone smarter than I am.
Yes.
If we have a recession, would the Fed fund rate have to go into negative for it to help?
I don't think it goes, well, it's not going to go negative.
Okay. Why?
They would have gone there already if they were ever going to do it.
Why? We've been expanding for 7 years. We're at a half, and we have full employment. So how do you not go negative?
Well, they're going to build, but before you get the recession, they will have built the rate up to where they can bring it down.
But see, that's the problem. They can't build it fast enough because then they're going to create it by themselves. That's what I feel.
Well, I don't think raising the interest rate by definition is going to give you a recession.
Okay.
I think the craziness coming out of Washington is going to give you a recession.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, the capital market, there's so much capital in the world. It's like a commodity, right? You got tons and tons of hay. The price, right, is lower than when you have short supply. There's so much capital chasing real vibe. I think the issue, what might get us into the economy is stagnation in some innovation or stagnation in developing new demand for products. Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what the interest rates are and what anything else is. But if there's some hyperinflation by artificial, like you said, pumping money into the economy, then interest rates will rise because you're going to suck up the inflation. But
Again, do you think that we typical to have inflation with our demographics?
I think that the inflation will come about if Trump does what he wants and Congress goes along. If you don't do anything with Social Security, you don't do anything with Medicare, you cut taxes, you expand the military, and you have a massive expansion, infrastructure spending, there's only one way to get there, debt. Debt means I don't pull as much out as I push in. As I said in my slides, if you think of the economy as a balloon, the balloon's pretty well at max. Now you start blowing more air into that thing, it can only move a little bit, and then price is the only thing it can That's exactly what the Fed's looking, that's why they're gonna raise this month.
Yeah, but they're gonna raise what, a quarter?
But they will raise repeatedly, if they start seeing this happen, they have no choice. Now, I'll tell you what's really scary, is Trump's gonna get at least 3 appointments under the Fed board. Now, that's frightening, because that might just release inflation without doing anything about it.
Okay.
All right, well, let me, since we're literally coming to an end, and since I paid for the room, I guess I'll have the last few words here. I think the question is maybe even more maybe in my wheelhouse, because you guys are number crunchers, and you guys are looking at, and Bruce and all of you guys are charts, and to the degree that you're looking forward, trying to forecast where we're going to be. I'll tell you where I am. I am more confident today than I have been in memory. Okay, and I was very confident, quite honestly, in 2006 and 7 and 8 and 9. But I was confident for different reasons. I was confident because I had a very strong business plan, which was geared towards a distressed marketplace, and I happened to be very well positioned in a distressed marketplace to take care of that. Now, since we've been coming out of that distressed market in 29, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and now I as a practitioner and someone who's trying to build my business model based upon what's the consumer going to do and what are agents going to do. When I hear talk of the recession, and the numbers and the charts may bear that out and the cycles may bear that out, although Chris seemed to think a little bit differently. I would love to have a cage match, by the way, with either Bruce and Chris, or did you guys see the video, Dr. Husey's video, poking a little bit of fun at Chris in the promotional video? I enjoyed that as well. But just from a broker owner standpoint, the one thing that I see, which maybe, I don't mean to put words or interpret what these guys are saying in the wrong way as far as potentially looming recession and bad news, I just see an amount of confidence in the marketplace that I have not seen in an extremely long time. Maybe that's misplaced, and I don't just mean from realtors, I mean from consumers. There are consumers out there, at 50 people coming through open houses on a Sunday afternoon in bad weather, okay? I've been doing this a long time. I don't see 50 people coming through open houses. These are all not open houses that have been overly promoted in a fantastic way. This is a typical house with a couple signs in the yard. And frankly, I was at the CAR meeting last week, and not that CAR is any indication of where things are going, but membership in CAR is up. They're anticipating us to be over 200,000 members again. And we can debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. People getting their real estate license, applying on a weekly basis. Who gets the BRE list every Monday morning that comes through? Okay, well, that's us. We get the BRE list every Monday that comes through. The number of people that are applying to take the real estate exam on a weekly basis is anywhere from 20 to 40% higher than it has been year over year. And maybe that's misplaced confidence. Maybe those people are losing jobs elsewhere and think real estate might be a fallback position. But just from a sheer confidence standpoint in the marketplace, whether it's misplaced or not, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the consumer or generally even the agent in a more confident mindset for February or for March in a very, very long time. And generally, we're not a really happy group in January and February and March. Okay, we tend to get a little happier maybe in April and May, assuming things are going a little bit better. But considering it's March 7th, well, let's do an unscientific poll. Well, first of all, who's left in the room? Raise your hand if you're a lender or a realtor. Okay, basically everybody. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up if you feel better. Keep your hand up if you feel better today than you did a year ago. Better. Yeah. In other words, do you just feel that you're in a better position business plan wise than you were a year ago? Okay. I think most of us. Well, forget about the politics. By the way, I think Trump kind of got off easy today. Really expected him to get the shit kicked out of him all day. So at any rate,
I hate everybody.
At any rate, I think this is where we'll leave it today. One of the reasons that I put on this event, to be honest with you, is because I'm all about trying to figure out where business is going, how my business plan, how I need to basically answer your question. What the heck do I need to do with my time, energy, and money in the next 6 months, 24 months, 5 years? And I would pay just to go see these guys. It's cheaper for me to put this on than it is to try to figure out where these guys are going to be. To that degree, we'll continue to do these events and we'll continue to do do some business planning, but there's always a market for us guys. I mean, you look at the business that we as realtors or mortgage folks did a year ago or 2 years ago. My business plan is so different today than what it was even 2 years ago. Certainly different than it was 5 years ago. So hopefully you guys got some value out of this today. I really appreciate this, guys. This is the largest, considering the Q&A, we've lost people because everyone's starving. But at any rate, I really want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank all of our sponsors, thank our panelists, and let's go sell some real estate, guys.